저는 조어지게 담바는 성주제 발라진 바로 삼바 졸라 소상도와 대인도 다 다다게 해반다 바로 삼바 졸을 값대라 대인 바로 삼바 졸을 좀 세쇼요.
We still find ourselves more or less at the same point where we left off in the morning in our teacher's instruction that summarizes or condenses the essence, in which it says the precious enlightened attitude of bodhicitta, having been born or having arisen, one should continue then to practice the 6 transcendent virtues, which means to say that once one has given rise to this attitude, this bodhicitta, or awakened heart as it can also be called, then what is to be done, what is actively to be employed or practiced, is that which is known as the 6 paramitas, or the transcendent virtues, or the 6 activities that lead one towards the goal. From among these 6 transcendent virtues, we have heard that the first one is that of generosity, the activity of giving to others what they require, of giving to the needy. And as we have heard, according to the word of the Buddha himself, there are the 4 types of generosity. The first 2 of which Rinpoche has already explained a little bit about. The first one having been the generosity in regard to material means, actually giving material things, material possessions of whatever kind to others who are in need. And Rinpoche has also already explained a little bit about the second type of generosity, which is the giving or the extending to others the gift of Dharma. Now the third one is the generosity of giving to others fearlessness, which when it comes down to it means providing them with protection. Now, one example of how to extend protection towards others is, for instance, if you were to see how a larger being is about to eat a smaller being. If you find it within your means to prevent that, then indeed you have given to that smaller being the gift of protection. Certainly the greatest of fears that we all suffer from, that all beings suffer from for that matter, is the fear of dying. If we have been living happily ever after until the present moment, some of us may have been lucky enough never to have encountered too much in the way of sickness and related pains, but eventually it might come to pass that a life-threatening sickness comes along and threatens our very life. Now, for instance, if we would encounter such a person, and if we were able to practice the healing arts in any which way, as medical practitioners or whatever it might be, if, for instance, by way of whatever means we'd be able to cause the healing of that person, if we'd be able to prevent the death of that person of that particular sickness, well, then indeed we would have extended the gift of fearlessness, at least of fearlessness from death of that particular sickness to such a person.
Any young Gashijela century, but I'm Jumsing as a Yabahakum in there. Century Pasavano. And then I go from John Savano. That then it means getting them in the moment of they do take Tomji, then sending need on us in Jipa, proper seven tapping.
There's a great many different ways of healing people, and apart from regular medicine, we have all sorts of healing practitioners of acupuncture, of other methods with which Rinpoche is less familiar. But no matter what method it is that any such person practices, he or she is able to save any sick person from the circumstances and death that comes about through a certain sickness, well then indeed not only protection from that sickness, but also protection from the fear of death through such a sickness has been extended to that person.
Dharma sentient tela, this is Maranga, the Nasa Pin Goyo, then a chop goyo, the Nasa Tango, somebody how some sandwich go.
Apparently, Rinpoche asked, as I was translating, asked Christopher, there are these other people who work with yet other people's minds. What are they called? Psychologists, isn't it? What exactly do they do? Rinpoche apparently had no very clear idea about what it is they do. And Christoph explained a little bit, and Rinpoche says, okay, I don't really know very much about that. Maybe I had better study some about this art. But however, Rinpoche says, if it helps, well, why not? The important thing in any such endeavor is that one has to be motivated to help the other. If one is motivated in the proper way, if one's motivation is to bring about the lasting benefit and welfare of any given being or patient for that matter in such a relationship, then that is which should be the underlying driving force of the entire endeavor.
Then Corona, Travayapo, Nasaka, Jumse, Travayapo, Tizelangarum, Trivata and Mevas. Topo Mare, Kale, Lelet, Maron Sayo, Lelet, Corona, Travayapo, Tree. Then in Maranga Kale, Dachis in Nambayana, then Dachis in Yapota. That and you good.
If you're endowed with the right motivation, and if you should practice any kind of healing art in this particular way, it is of great importance that when you're confronted with your patient, with the sick person, with the person who suffers from whatever circumstance and encounters fear about it, that you take your time to make sure what the problem exactly is. You should not just kind of hurry along and say question 1, question 2, question 3, okay, next. But you should take your time, talk to these people, find out exactly what the problem is, and then to the very best of your knowledge and ability, help them. The underlying, the underlying point here again is the proper motivation. If you're properly motivated to help these people, these beings, these patients, this is what the starting point of this whole endeavor, of this whole activity has to be.
Helen taking the league member in that, the Helen Saber capsule, Maru, same day, Negamona, Nebasi, same Shawati, the Itala, Maron, Namto Mandrava, Mavati. That end our Tine, Tonigamona, Yon Helen Tina, Nepati, Sam Della Young, Tombayore. Maranga Samu Tumba, Nepati Samu Tumba Nika Kipari. Then Rawatina, then Corona days, Pendo Shuchimundo.
The same holds true for all other kinds of healers, also those who use their hands in various ways to heal others. whenever one finds oneself in this way together with a patient, with a sick person, someone who suffers in any which way whatsoever, it is important that as one goes about the actual business of healing, so to speak, that one does so in a very peaceful and a very relaxed mental attitude. One has to realize for once that one's own mind nature is completely empty of any self-nature, of any substance whatsoever. Resting in that, one reminds oneself of the fact that the mind nature of the sick person, of the one who suffers, is equally empty of any self-nature. In this way, we are one and the same. We are not different from each other in any which way. And if one has realized that, if one has understood that, and if one can rest in that recognition while going about the actual art of healing, then one is truly able to make a meaningful connection with the person that one treats. Having brought about such a peaceful state of mind for oneself, for the one who does the healing, the doctor or the healer or whatever it is, whatever it might be, is extremely beneficial while dealing with one's patients. If one is able to rest one's mind in a very relaxed and calm state, then one is able to peacefully and in a relaxed way quietly listen to the problems that the person who seeks help from us encounters. And that in turn has the very positive effect that that person also starts to relax, starts to calm down, and starts to feel the confidence that there is someone who calmly and attentively listens to their problems, listens to their troubles. So that in itself already is a great deal, and therefore one should, to the best of one's ability, proceed in this way. Yeah, there are apparently such medical practitioners who are not endowed with that peaceful mind and that patient way of dealing with their patients. Rinpoche says he remembers very well one doctor whom he himself encountered several times many years ago after he had just come from Tibet to India and moved to Sikkim. That doctor was practicing his arts in Gangtok, and he was known to be of the rough and tough sort. He was not peaceful or patient at all with his with the people who sought help from him, but rather exactly the other way around. Whenever Rinpoche went to him, and also other patients went to him, he would, instead of being friendly and patient, he would more or less shout at them, "What's the matter?" People would then very timidly say, "Well, I'm sick." And he'd say, "What do you mean, sick? Explain." So already the relationship was somewhat strained, and a doctor occasionally has to touch the patient and look at certain things, and he always treated them very roughly. Instead of being calm, took them and said, like this. Turn it around. Like that. Yeah, okay, put it away. So that particular doctor had no good reputation among the Tibetans, and many Tibetans who actually were in need of medical attention rather thought it wiser not to go and see the doctor. Yeah, as demonstrated, that's exactly not the way to be when you're trying to help others, particularly not when you're a practitioner of any sort of medical or healing art. As it was the case with this particular doctor in Gangtok, and as it is the case with others of that sort, patients who go to see such a doctor do not feel particularly well taken care of. For the most part, they might not even feel particularly well examined. So rather, when you have the chance to help others, then try to do so in a relaxed, kind and a friendlier atmosphere. Try to really find out what's wrong and try to really find out what can be done about it. In this way, you bring about a great deal more benefit than being of the rather rough and tough sort as that particular example. So far, or so much, that much about the gift of fearlessness. Then there is the fourth type of generosity, which is our extending loving kindness and compassion, or simply just love to others. Now, as we are beginners in this discipline, it goes without saying that we cannot just extend our love, our kindness, our compassion to all sentient beings, as we are always talking about. As we're beginners in this discipline, of course, first of all, we only be able to extend that to our loved ones, to those who are dear, who are near to us. And of course, there will be these people, that sort of people who rather have us be quite apprehensive, even when they just turn up at the horizon, who might be termed as enemies, some who bring out all the worst in us, who make us angry, who make feel us unkind, etc. and so forth. It will not be possible for us as beginners to extend our loving kindness, our compassion to these right away as well. So therefore we start out with small steps, which is perfectly all right. There's nothing at all wrong with that. We first concentrate upon those who are near and dear to us. We then gradually widen the circle of those whom we include within our compassion, within our loving kindness, until then eventually we are able to extend our love and kindness, our compassion towards all beings. That is a slow process that needs to be trained in. And if we then encounter all of these beings, or even if we imagine all of these beings, we will find ourselves then surrounded by all of those towards whom we extend our kindness, our love and our compassion. The single problem that remains is that there are still those whom we don't like. And if we imagine them, or if we even see them, if we encounter them, then all of that giving away of loving and kindness grinds to a screeching halt. Now, what is to be done then? Instead of becoming angry and doing the very opposite of extending kindness and love towards others, we should rather use some skillful means, and if either in real life or in our imagination we encounter someone whom we truly dislike, towards whom we find it really difficult to extend our love and kindness, then we should address that person and say, you, off and back. Somewhere where we don't see him, somewhere where they do not bring to the fore all the anger or all the negative emotions that we have for them. In this way we can then happily ever after continue to give away our love and kindness, and all will be happy.
Senkin so short yen yang sagatang long good. Then it Jenkin don't metal so short mine by yen yang, this Sayetella, then Yaki good. They end Sorum George Sayeton Kipari. Then a Saye Yapozo and that the metal Roman deal Senkin get nature country and Jiggy. Pete and Aron Tongas, Sorum Ziona. Then I look at Sanji, Yandy Congo and Perium. Oh, song. Tremne, Tremne, Jodum Major, Saja, Juasana Sanji, Lasso, Melasso.
Oh, there's a jewel
Joa Pond, Lasso, Saja, and good one. Major and Yahin on Metal or Lodola. Then into the Judum Major Sai. Yanting can get in love, Yanting tonguing a sergeant over it. Then it's on.
This kind of generosity, the generosity of loving kindness and compassion towards beings, is the fourth type of generosity that has been taught by the Buddha. And with that, the short explanation of the first of the 6 transcendent virtues is more or less concluded. Now the second one is that of discipline, or rather better, appropriate conduct. And there's a word by Nagarjuna in which it very roughly says, like the soil for the animate and inanimate world, proper conduct is to be taken into proper consideration. Which means to say that proper conduct, appropriate conduct, or discipline, if you want to call it that with one word, is at the very root of everything. All beings, or plants and whatever, so the animate and inanimate world, whatever it is and its inhabitants, they all live on the soil, they live on the ground, on the earth, which is the very basis for everything and anything to exist in the first place. And similar proper conduct, appropriate conduct or discipline is at the very basis of all other endeavors, of all of the other virtues. So as the second transcendent virtue, we have discipline or appropriate conduct. When it comes to such discipline, there are three types of discipline that are taught. The first of these three types is the discipline to avoid harming others. When living in this world of appearances and phenomena, with everything that constantly confronts us, with everything that we constantly perceive and react to, there are predominantly three ways in which we can react, or in which we can act, for that matter. We can do so physically with our bodies, we can do so verbally with our speech, and we can also have a certain mental attitude towards this world. With all three of these, we can potentially cause great harm and bring about harm and suffering for others. So the first type of discipline or appropriate conduct is that of actively trying to avoid, to the best of our ability, harming others in any of these three ways.
Yon chom chom sansa to maru yadang ke jerong rawo gona gagandu te yadang ke jerong gon nyebada chom chom tena tangling ke me ba sangchu ke sam gona gagandu na te sangchu ke sam gon chom chom shene da lang dong la so ba tian zhao gong te yan du tena ge wa gang yan na yong gang maru ke drop san de yang ta ba drop tena yin je chu ba dang 사자도 게르도 님마도 가지라 내 주야보리 니 다보리 내 주야보 말이 근데 단 성로 마당 탐지 성지게 성리 대연도 직발이 된다와들이 탐지라 그바지 대바 된다와들 서름이 바지.
So actively avoiding harm for others. That is the first of the three types of discipline or appropriate conduct. The second type is known as practicing that which increases or which condenses virtue. And that pertains to whatever sorts of practice we might be doing. If you encounter the representations of the three jewels and you feel to pay homage to them, for instance, you could decide to joyfully offer a number of prostrations. And you do that for a while, and after a while then you think that now the time has come to practice a development process meditation such as any Yidam deity, its mantra repetition and so forth. You joyfully jump right into that activity and continue with this way. For that matter, any other such activity is designed to bring about virtue, and if one practices in such a way, virtue is indeed increased. Virtue is being condensed, is being brought together, is being accumulated. These practices, no matter what they are similar in all schools. And Rinpoche said, therefore, one should have no thought, no idea, harbor no idea in one's mind that any one of the four schools that one might follow is superior to the other, whether one is a Kagyu, a Nyingma, a Gelug, or what have we, Sakyapo practitioner. They're all of similar nature, they're all equally beneficial. So therefore you should have no such idea of belonging to a superior tradition that is better than any of the others. And then there's the third type of discipline or appropriate conduct, which is that of bringing about the benefit or welfare of beings. So having endeavored to practice the first type not to cause others harm, and having also endeavored to practice the second type, which condenses and increases our virtues, which enable us more and more to work for other beings, then we actually have to apply these means. Now we have to become active on behalf of others. others. So the third type of discipline is that of actually bringing about the welfare